Welcome to the Portland Film Festival, presented for the fourth consecutive year by Comcast. We want to thank the Comcast team's tremendous support and commitment to independent filmmakers. Their ongoing support ensures that diverse voices are given a platform to share their unique perspectives on the world. We'd also like to thank Kerner Camera, Portland Mortgage, and Oregon Film. For more information or to buy tickets online, visit portlandfilm.org. My name is Diane, and I am the Director of Filmmaker Engagement with the Portland Film Festival. And I am here with two of our filmmakers now. Would you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us about your film?
Yeah, my name is Abbey Sowick.
I'm Robert Perez.
And we wrote and directed, produced, and acted in the short film Undercurrent. It's about two people that decide to go on a first date during kind of like peak pandemic, very beginning of like lockdown period in Los Angeles.
Great. What made you decide to take on this project?
Well, I would say that just like we lost our jobs like right at the beginning of the pandemic, and we've been working together creating kind of like small music videos for some friends, but we wanted to move into narrative work together, and we kind of just took the opportunity of being at home to kind of launch off and make something. And our friends, we had a few friends that were starting to date right in the beginning, and we were really fascinated by that with everything that was going on, and had two very different perspectives on it that we wanted to explore.
Yeah. We also kind of during lockdown time, became aware of like how important it was, how much more important it was during that time that we had each other, and kind of like imagining what a person who didn't have a partner, might be going through, and why they would be looking for a partner in this time, even though it's a very tricky time to look for a partner, and kind of just wanted to explore those things.
Yeah, it was, I loved the scene where you agree to take your masks off. What would you say that this film tells about what's going on in the world today? What would you say the messages in that?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, there's a few, but obviously consent is such a big thing that is now being so important in our, relationships and getting to know each other, that and sometimes it was kind of danced around. It wasn't really discussed. And I think you add this layer of like, oh, there's this whole other thing you have to consent to when you throw a pandemic into it, and you're being advised to maintain a distance and to have this like layer between you, and you really have to make sure that you're on the same page as someone else, and make sure that you're comfortable.
Right. And I think just like checking in with other people, as part of that. But also, it's one of the lines that we had put in the film that you say is that, closeness should be earned, and that's something that I think that was just during this time during that time specifically, felt like it was very, very accurate. You can only have certain people in your circle, basically, and that there's a process where you want to allow a person to get close to you, and certain people you don't, and just how consensual, and how that's a beautiful thing in a lot of ways. We also I think just the idea of people during difficult times wanting to be close to other people, wanting to find a connection during difficult times, and how it takes vulnerability in order to make that happen. You have to be willing to be vulnerable with another person in order for them to really have a connection with you, and they have to feel the same, and I think it's just, some of that is in there, definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you have any memorable moments or challenges that came up during the production?
Well, a little bit, I will say overall things were pretty smooth for us, which I think we were kind of like just blessed for that. But I would say that, filming in a public location in Los Angeles And this was our first film. And my first film producing was challenging in its own way, just dealing with the permitting system and trying to be ahead of it. And then they don't tell you whether you even get accepted for the permit till the day before you shoot. So you try to do all of this stuff to be ahead of it all, but they really, I think, because it's just how they do things. So I feel like that was challenging. And also we were shooting in a public space, which we thought was going to be easier, but was actually ended up being more complicated.
Yeah. I mean, it was, the time when we wrote it, it was a different time compared to when we shot it. During that time when we were writing it and like conceptualizing the idea, we were spending time in that park that we ended up shooting in. And we are like, let's write a film that takes place in this park. It's a beautiful place. And there's nobody here. Like, people are afraid to go outside even at that time, it felt like. So it was very beautiful and very odd because we're in this, busy city with so many people that like the streets are really empty, that the parks are very empty. And that the beaches sometimes are closed and they're empty and all that stuff. So it was like, okay, this is a perfect time. Actually, we can be in a public space like this and film it during the middle of the daytime and nobody's here. It'd be great. And then by the time we got to shoot it, it was like people were ready to be outside.
Yeah.
The weather had changed. Everybody was outside. And I almost had a panic attack because I didn't think I was like, we're not going to be able to shoot this film in this park. It's not going to play like lockdown time with so many people in the park who are probably not wearing masks at that time or like whatever. It was just like, there were kids having birthday parties by the time we got to shoot. And it was just like that was definitely a challenge and it was tricky to navigate, but we had,
and obviously we wanted more time. We would have liked more time.
Yeah.
Always want more time, but we made our days and we got what we needed. But definitely we wanted to shoot in the park like 3 days. And we only ended up getting 1 day. So like that's an example. And but it all ended up really working out, honestly.
And we almost got rained out on one of those days when we were shooting at the beach. It was just like, oh man, we weren't sure if it was gonna rain or not until we got out there and started filming. I was like, if it rains, I don't know what we're gonna do. But things like that, just shooting outside, shooting in public spaces are just, you gotta kind of roll with the punches on things like that,
Deal with pedestrians. The public.
Man. People walking through the middle of the scenes, and we're doing long takes. So it's like we have to start, from the very top again.
Yeah.
And I definitely got cursed out by an older woman.
You did. Yeah.
For not
moving out of the way.
Not moving out of her way.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Is that what inspired
Sorry, go ahead.
Is that what inspired the inconsiderate walker scene?
That idea, we used to go for walks like every day during lockdown. It was part of our routine, just keep ourselves sane.
Yeah.
And there's this particular kind of path that we would walk down, and we noticed that as we were walking down that every day, more often than not, we were moving out of the way for other people. And just thought that was such an interesting thing. It's like, a person sees you coming, and at some point, one of you is going to move, but it's just so weird that like there's like a game of chicken that happens, when there's enough room for everybody to walk. You can walk on this side, we can walk on this side, but a lot of times it was just, we would talk about that during our walks. It's like, it's weird that just like people don't.
Why are we the only ones moving?
Yeah. So I really like, that was, I think, where that came from. But during that specific scene was when that lady came in, and she was coming directly at me. And, our production coordinator was like trying to get her to go out of the way. Our AD, Ron, he was trying to get her to move off the path. He was like, we're filming. We had our PA set up to block people off. And could you guys walk on the grass instead of the path, for like 2 minutes, and she refused, and she was walking straight towards me, and Abby's just like, Abby set up a trap for me, and she's like, don't move. And I was like, I knew she was gonna, the lady was gonna come at me and not at her. I knew like I was gonna get yelled at about it. But I was like, okay. And she just was like, get out of my way. You know, she just like
Oh,
really like leaned into me and cursed me out. Was like, who the F do you think you are? And just like stomped off. And then we were like, okay, and go.
Action. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So how challenging was it for you? Because you obviously are comfortable with each other. How challenging was it for you to play this kind of awkward interaction? And specifically the scene where your character, Abby, almost leaves.
Yeah. That's a great question. You know, I think because we're so comfortable with each other, that's probably why it was easy to act together and to almost like pretend that we don't know each other. We also rehearsed quite a lot because we knew that we didn't have a lot of time on the days that we were going to be able to watch a lot of playback. So we definitely had it kind of figured out in a big way before the shoot days. So we got those like jitters out of like, oh, we have to pretend like we don't know each other, even though we really know each other. And got like comfortable with that. And yeah, the scene where my character is gonna leave, you know, is definitely drawn from like personal experiences, red flags that maybe I didn't pick up on in past relationships, and kind of like, oh, like I want to act on this, like let's run with this a little bit. And so just kind of putting myself back into that place, replacing his image with somebody else's, and just you know, going back to that time kind of in my life. And yeah, it was
tricky because we knew that was definitely going to be kind of a make or break, you know, element of the film, is that there's strangers and there's this awkward tension between them, you know, and we are so comfortable. We've been dating for 5 years. We've been making things and working together for more than that, you know, and so I think a lot of it was rehearsal, you know, and just making sure we had our lines down, because obviously we wrote it together, but also like we had to rehearse it, and there's certain elements, there's physical comedy, and we wanted to block the scenes out because like we said, there's just kind of, you know, when you get into a public space, all bets are off, you know. There are going to be distractions. You don't know what's going to happen, and you have to just kind of like roll with it. So we got ourselves to that point with our lines and our rehearsal and stuff like that. But you know, I think also it helped that we were kind of like jittery, because it was just like, okay, we're shooting our first film. This is real. We're here doing it now. And, you know, and there are people around watching, you know, and, you know, we wanted to nail it. So I think for me personally, I got to like channel that a little bit, you know, and I think I'm just a very nervous person in general anyway. So I was like, okay, number one, my character is going to be nervous, you know.
Well, my favorite scene, and I'm sure you've heard this from a lot of people, is you gifting her the flowers. How did you come up with that? Because it seems like when I watched it and saw that, it was like, of course, it's such a real thing that a guy would show up with flowers for this woman he's trying to impress, and it's COVID.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to spray it down before you pass it over, you know.
Yeah. I mean, we just kind of discussed that like a few times, like does he try to hand them like across in this like very awkward way?
Right. Or like put them down and let her come and, you know, pick them up or something. But I don't know. I think that was just something that we just thought was a really nervous thing to do.
Yeah.
You know, kind of like, you know, we were also like servers in a cafe before we started shooting this. And a lot of times we talk about how you say awkward things at your tables and you just immediately walk away. You're just like, oh, that was the stupidest thing. It didn't make any sense. I shouldn't have said this. And I think it was kind of one of those moments, you know, where you're just kind of like,
you think it's a good idea, like, oh, this just makes sense, I'll just toss them over to her and she'll catch them.
And things are just kind of happening so fast, your brain is just going and you're nervous and you just want a person to like you or whatever, and you know, you do silly things sometimes, and then to have to kind of recover from that is, you know, I think there's a lot of comedy in that as well, to like have to be like, yeah, I just did that, I'm sorry, I meant to, that's not what please like me, you know. Is just, I just felt like we just felt like there was a lot of comedy that could come from that, and to kind of, you know, humble him instantly, I think, and just set the stage for how this is going to be, you know, moving forward. I think I don't know, it just kind of came up and we just kind of ran with it.
Yeah.
And it seemed, you know, people like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had a nice balance of comedic moments and tense moments, so that was nice.
Thank
What do you hope people take from your film?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I hope that people see that kind of like in the face of sort of like adversity of circumstances, that people are still going to find a way of coming together, and finding like a true genuine connection, showing that you can have a connection maybe without physicality, without, you know, touch, like really getting to know someone, and developing something that's even, you know, stronger than like if you ended up with a first kiss at the end of the date, which, you know, doesn't get to happen for them.
I think there's so many things, but I think ultimately it is just kind of you know, the healing power of like genuine connection with another person. You know, even if it's not this very like sexy thing that, you know, we're all imagining in our heads we'd like it to be, even if it's just like a small moment. You know, I think that the moment when they're on the beach, or in the moment when they are arguing, it's like that's really where the connection is formed.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes it takes a lot of discomfort to find that connection. Sometimes you have to get into fights and arguments and stuff to really come to an understanding. And I think just kind of not being afraid to do that, not being afraid to be vulnerable with another person, not being afraid to say I'm sorry to another person, you know, and to just try to understand where another person's coming from, you know, and that's how connections are really formed. And also, you know, I think like we definitely wanted to express the comfort and beauty that we find in nature, you know, and I think that was a big part of like the cinematic kind of language of our film. And we just kind of, I don't know, I think that's a big thing. It's just kind of like, you know, going outside definitely kept us sane during lockdown. And, you know, it's a big part of our lives. And I think we just kind of wanted to share that with people, you know, and remind, you know, getting fresh air sometimes and having a good conversation with a person, you know, is like the best medicine.
Yeah. Definitely.
So what's next for you?
Oh. Yeah. Well, we have like a few ideas that we're kind of working on at the moment. Some other short films. Both of them are kind of more like coming of age, kind of inspired by, one of them sort of inspired by my life as a child, and one's kind of inspired by his background. And, you know, yeah, we're really just going through like the stories, like in the outlines of the stories at this point. Like we're in very early stages. We're kind of getting back to like life and work, and you know, getting, you know, going out for like acting auditions and that kind of thing at the moment. But really just like our passion is creating our own projects. So
we have some ideas of stories we want to tell, and we think that probably there'll be like some more short films that we want to make, you know. You know, we talked a little bit about, you know, like music videos and stuff like that. We just really want to like direct more, basically. You know, we really want to like keep getting experience developing our craft as a directing team, and also as a writing team, you know. So we're really just trying to explore those aspects of ourselves right now.
That's great. Well, I hope we see you back next year.
That'd be great.
Maybe even in person. We'll see. So is there anything else that you wanted to share about your film or the process?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I want to just like say that we were really lucky to get the team that we ended up having. And it was very, you know, I was very like hyper focused on wanting to have a lot of women on our crew, and we found an amazing DP, Jenna Huskisson, and she's become like a great friend, and she was definitely like with us every step of the way through the process. And you know, we also had like a lot of people of color, and I feel like and it's a lot of like young people. We had like a kid that was still in high school who was like our second AC, and you know,
just made his own short film that's
yeah,
winning awards right
that's great.
Ethan.
Yeah.
We had like a really great team, you know. This was her first time producing, you know, and she killed it, you know. I had no idea. I was like, I don't know what to even like. This would never get made, you know, if she hadn't done it, you know, if she hadn't pulled everything out, you know, of the hat. It just kind of happened. Like, she interviewed lots of people, she talked to lots of people, and yeah, when we found Jenna, it was just kind of like we had an instant friendship with her, an instant connection, and she kind of was able to see what we wanted. And yeah, it was like a really great experience collaborating with everybody on this film, and yeah, I don't know. I mean, I just hope that people, you know, our film, I think is about patience as well. You know, sometimes how that can be like a forced thing, you know, like during the lockdown period, for example, when we lost our jobs, it just felt like we were forced to be still for a while. And I think, you know, we wanted to communicate that in our film, and we wanted to show the beauty in that, you know, and in the stillness, in the quiet moments. And I think that I hope that people like really like are able to listen to that and to find that to find the beauty in that as well. You know, I think that's like a big part of our film, and I really like that about it. You know, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming out and talking to me today. And thank you all for watching. Please check out Undercurrent at portlandfilm.org, and remember to vote. We've got an Audience Choice Award, and I know that they would love to be considered for it. So vote, 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 and watch, watch, watch. Thank you so much. Join us also in our virtual lobby, and you can meet filmmakers and other moviegoers and more. Again, that's portlandfilm.org. Thank you.